What is uh, the story behind your why that you like to share with the audience?
I think that there's different layers, but I think ultimately at the end of it, I think what I think is really important is when we have a good relationship with money, we're able to teach that to our children. And ultimately, money is just a reflection of ourselves. And so when we have a good relationship, air quotes, right? Good relationship with money, then that also reflects how we are with ourselves. And I think that when we, at least for me and what I've noticed in myself and clients with women, is that when we have transformed our relationship with money, we literally are able to stop some of that generational experiences that we have incurred from the past. And we're able to change the trajectory of our children's future by how we live and be with money.
For sure. Wow. Tell me more about that.
I mean, I think that if you're not aware of your relationship with money, you act on, um, autopilot. So you might be saying things to your children that your parents told you or your grandparents told your parents, and so you just you reenact the same story that probably you grew up with. But when you are aware that you can have a different relationship with money, that your children can have a different relationship and a more, when I say different, what I mean is empowered relationship with money, then you empower your children as well.
Let's talk both sides. Um, what do you mean by an empowered relationship, and what's the other side of that equation?
Well, the other side is disempowered. So lots of I can't, we can't, it's not possible. All of the, like, almost kind of using money as the reason why you can't do something. And when you have an empowered relationship with money, it's the same. It's the same that you are with yourself, right? Like there's a way to have what you want, to generate what you want. I grew up with a family that said we can't afford that, versus now I tell my child like that is not something that is in alignment with me and dad's values. And so we're choosing not to spend money on that. It's not because we can't afford it, it's because we choose not to pay for that. If you want to spend your money on that, that's totally okay, but that's not something we want to spend our money on, which gives the child the opportunity to really think about, like, do I want that? Do I want to go get it for myself? And how do I want to? I mean, obviously, she's 12. I wouldn't, you know, when she's 5, that was a different story. But just, I think being able to tell your children that you have a certain set of values, and sometimes what they want may not be with what you want. And instead of saying, oh, we can't afford it, or a lot of times, no matter how much money you have, that's too expensive. But really, what you mean is that by that is the amount of money that they're requesting isn't what you find value. You don't, the value and the money does not match. And so using different language so that you can teach your children, something isn't expensive. It's just you don't find value in it, or it's, yeah, overpriced for the amount that you actually want to pay. It's not expensive, feels like it's out of my range. I can't have that, versus I'm choosing not to buy this because XYZ.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. You know, have you seen the Captain America, the first one?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. So in the in it's there's a I think there's a part in the movie where so Steve Rogers, before he takes the serum, and they're looking for someone to uh, find someone who can take the serum, looking for qualities of, hey, we need these qualities, and they went and go ahead on and choose Steve Rogers to do so. And Steve Rogers is this tiny dude, like I think 5'2", 5'3", and um, everyone thinks like, why did you choose this guy? Right? Like, why did you choose this guy? So the I think the general, he takes a fake grenade, and people are just standing in the middle with this, like a lot of soldiers. And he takes a fake grenade and he throws it. Everyone goes away, but Steve Rogers, he jumps on the grenade. Like,
Mhm.
"Hey, get away! I'm gonna cover myself." So he was willing to sacrifice himself, and that's what the general showed. Like, the serum enhances every quality that you have.
Yeah.
It could be what good you want to do in the world.
Yeah.
It could be how bad you want to do in the world. It enhances your muscles. It enhances your brain. I think it enhances every quality that you have. And I think that's one of the reasons they chose Steve Rogers. And that's how I kind of look at money
Yeah.
from what experience I've had. I think money as a tool um, doesn't change who you are. I think what it does is it just takes whatever you have and just makes it bigger and expansive in what you are. So if um, greed is something, it's in your heart, right? And it's something that you practice and that you in a way are. I think money will take that and make it to a bigger level. And same with if you're passionate about charity, if you're passionate about helping people, I think it will do the same thing where you're able to help more people now. You're able to give more now. You're able to inspire more now. So that's how I kind of interpret what you said today. Um,
Yeah.
is that relatable, or did I miss the mark completely?
I think that's one piece of it, because you looked at it more so as greed or good, and I'm air quoting for those of the listeners that are listening. But it's also, if you are afraid, if you are fearful, the more money you have, you're going to be more fearful, right? And we think that the more money we have, the more at peace or confident we're going to feel, but that's not true. It's like what you said. It is an amplification. And so really being able, first and foremost, we have to do it for ourselves before we're able to do it for our children. And I think also, um, I think that there's just something, I think I said this the last time, that there's something with the financial industry. We talk a lot about financial legacy, but I think one of the biggest legacies that we can, impart to our children is that they are capable of making and generating their own money. And I think, in the financial industry, it's like, oh, we want to accumulate this money and we want to be able to give it to whomever, upon our passing. But I think one of the biggest things that we can do is teach our children, good financial literacy, and that they're able to generate it themselves, and that is something that comes from within. It's not something that we get outside of us. So I think that's the other part of it too.
Yeah. What would you say that has done for your family, the literacy, Aaron?
Well, my child is probably tired of me talking about money. We talked a lot about money growing up. Like, my dad did educate me on money, but it was also from a very fear-based place, right? Of not having enough, versus the way I look at it with my kid now is like an abundant mentality, an expansive or sufficient, mentality. And so I think that the way that her relationship was with money at her age is vastly different than what it was at my, like, a 180 probably at my age. And so that's when I say, we're like flipping the switch, or we're just like the fork in the road. We're able to really create a different life for our children. Like, yes, they have free will and they grow up and they do their own thing, but they're not being indoctrinated with this fear scarcity mindset once we have worked through and continue to work through our relationship with money.
Would you say this is a little challenge to you? Would you say that they're indoctrinated on the other side though? Then
I don't think so. I don't think it's one or other. I think the brain wants to go one way or other. I think that there's definitely times when, I feel it in my body when the scarcity shows up, but then my ability to catch it and to correct it is so much quicker than what it used to be. And then able to have those conversations with my child about that and to talk about money in a very neutral place. I think we want to look at like abundance versus, like, a lot of times we just have conversations around money like we have conversations around the weather. It's not charged like it was in my house.
wow, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
That's I think definitely a lot of different ways to look at it, and I think the more we're not able to react or act um, through, I would say, stimulus is empowers us to make the right choices in our life. I think if I'm guessing this right, I think That's your ultimate goal for your kids, is to make the right decision with all the with all the knowledge in hand, correct?
Yes, and I don't think, I was just talking to a client about this earlier today. I don't think the goal is to never not react because we're human, right? We have emotions, we have I was going to go into the brain, like we have all these neural chemicals that is just part of being a human on this planet. But the speed at which we can see what we are doing and how quickly we can go back to, let's just call it that state of neutrality, and we can catch ourselves, I think that's the skill set that I want to teach my child and other people, because that once you know that skill set, once you know how to do that, then whatever comes up, you get to see it, you get to see you are separate from it, you aren't, it's not who you are, and then you get back to baseline, or yeah, I don't want to say normal, but neutrality.
Yeah. So let's explore that. I want to explore that skill set. What can you share about that skill set with us today?
Ask me that question a different way. Like, how do you get good at it? How do you realize that you're in it? What do you want to know?
Um, how do you recognize, first there's a need for that skill set, and I would say second question is, once you have recognized it, how do you improve, or get better, at using that skill set? Because we've already covered why you want to get better at
Yeah.
that skill set, right?
Yeah.
So let's get to how you recognize it and how you improve on it.
I think first and foremost, you are able to tell by how you feel in your body. And a lot of us are not connected to our bodies. I used to be this way where I act in a very mind-based approach, and it was almost like my body was separate from my mind. But how you feel on a consistent basis, when you look at your P&L, when you look at your assets, when you look at um, when you get an IRS, letter in the mail, when your kid asks you, I want to buy XYZ, whatever it is, when those money things come up, how do you feel in your body? And if it is not neutral and or expansive, and it feels more contractive, or it feels more fear based, or it feels scared, or you feel shame or guilt, then that is where you get to start to explore, okay, there is something there for me to look at. So I would say that would be number one. And then how do you get good at this skill set? Awareness typically in the beginning happens after the fact, right? So you notice, let's just say that you look at your P&L and L and you have feelings around it because it's not what you think it should be, air quotes, should be. And you are aware of what emotions and feelings and thoughts that you are having based on those numbers, that math staring at you. Then what happens is sometimes you might have a reaction to it, right? That is that first awareness piece, is it you catch things after the fact. Then the next step or awareness is you see it happening in real time, like noticing. Like the other day I noticed something with our taxes, and I was like, oh, I felt the feelings coming up with inside me, and I'm like, I see what's happening here. And it's almost kind of like I was watching what was happening within my body, and I was like, I saw that separation. I'm like, I'm going to feel this because clearly this is coming up to be expressed, to be transcended, and I'm going to feel this, and then I'm going to, move through it. And then the other side is that you intentionally, right? And this doesn't happen 100% of the time. Like, I don't think we ever get to this place because I think that puts a lot of pressure on us. But what is your state of being when it comes to yourself with money? And so is it 70, 80% of the time that you are purposely going in with the intention of feeling, what are those feelings you want to feel? Peaceful, calm, confident, empowered, um, neutral, like what are those feelings? And then practicing those on a daily basis, and then noticing when you go, into those blips of scarcity or fear based, and then coming back out. But that kind of happens in um a phase, I guess. Your awareness shifts as the more that you do it, the more that you become aware, the more that you are connected to yourself and your body.
Let's talk with an example so I understand that better. Can you share some of those examples that actually relate directly to it?
So like I mentioned, like let's just say that, some people like there's apparently like in the US, we have the IRS. And so for some people, that's a very triggering thing for them. Like they have been taught, like, you don't want to be audited. There's a lot of fear around that. So let's say that they got a letter in the mail, and maybe it was just inside the letter was, hey, we noticed you changed your address. If this is not correct, let us know. But you see that letter from the Internal Revenue Service, and then you feel those feelings, right? You think, oh my goodness, I don't want to open it up. I don't want to open the letter. Or you think, oh my goodness, what happened? Am I being audited? Or you think, you know, the thousand thoughts that you might think or feel, and then recognizing if you are in the first stage of awareness, you may not even notice that that's what's happening, right? So you would open up the envelope, and then you would read it, and it would say, oh, they just are confirming that I changed my address. Then you could look back and be like, oh, look how I felt in my body when I saw that in the mailbox. So that's that that's that first stage of awareness. If you're in the middle stage of awareness, you would be opening up the letter, and you'd be like, I notice what's happening in my body. I'm feeling fear, or I'm feeling maybe shame, and I'm recognizing this, and I'm allowing this to pass through me. And I do a lot of like hand on heart somatic work of like, okay, I see what's happening here. This is an old story that's coming up, that's wanting to be released. And then if you were on the other side of, you've practiced in your mind, you've actually practiced receiving the IRS statement, and when you get it, you feel nothing. That is the other side of the awareness.
So so someone gets an IRS statement and they think of the worst case scenario, right?
Sometimes they do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And worst case scenario, and but that this method helps them in case there is a worst case scenario. But right?
Well, that's one piece, and
Yeah.
maybe the IRS isn't the best statement, but when you are practicing, who is the person that has a calm and neutral relationship with money? That's what you want to be practicing.
Mm.
So that comes with meditation and visioning, because the brain and the body, they don't know any different between actual what's happening between me and you right here, or if I were to have rehearsed this interview 60 times. The body doesn't know any different. So you start rehearsing who is, and this is where it really gets down to, who is the person that feels calm and trusts, themselves with money, and that is empowered, and that is, and I would say even neutral with money. Like, you're not super high when you have a lot of money, and you're not, swinging low when you don't. So really focusing on, how do I want to be? Who is the person that has a neutral, calm, peaceful relationship with money?
Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an excellent time building out your vision and becoming a Vision Pro yourself.